Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Files podcast. It's your co-host Brandon Deutsch and Graham Mona. Man, we are back. We took a few weeks off, but now you guys are in the fantasy championship, or it's going to be over. But we also want to discuss a lot of football in general because we all play fantasy football, but once the season's over, it's all eyes on the playoffs, and that's what we transition to. And we're getting close to figuring out who are these juggernaut teams. I wanted to start with the team that surprised a lot of people in the NFL and the NFC specifically. I was really anti-Rams. I saw an opportunity to tank and take, a Caleb Williams or another quarterback. But, Stafford came back. He looked the best he's looked since they went on that Super Bowl run. And Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams having a legitimate running back really helps that team a lot. The Rams are dangerous in the NFC. Now, I don't know if they can go in and beat the Niners, but I think they can beat anybody else, and they can give the Niners a run for their money.
I can't believe we're in late December and we're saying this because there was a lot of people. Look, I didn't even think that they were going to be at this point. I thought that they were probably, 7 to 8 wins? They're already at 8. They could get to 10 if they beat the Giants and the Niners. I don't think they'll beat the Niners, so they're going to have to hope for a little bit of luck with the Seahawks against the Steelers. They're going to have to get a lot of help if they want to
get in regardless, no? Because the Saints are probably going to lose to Tampa, right? If Saints lose to Tampa, you guys are in regardless, right? Because Green Bay has 6 wins.
No, it's not the Green Bay.
Who's the other? Minnesota?
It's Seattle.
But Seattle's going to get in regardless.
And
you and Seattle.
No, Green Bay and Minnesota have to tie for us to get in going into Week 17. I don't think they're going to tie. I mean, they're starting Jaron Hall, so maybe the Vikings will tie him. But if I'm in that scenario for the Rams, I'm taking the Vikings just because the Packers have the tiebreaker. So even if you lose against the Niners and you're 8-8 and the Packers are 8-8, that would go to the Packers.
No, 8-8. The Rams 9-8 because they're
9-8.
going to beat the Giants. The Rams are not going to lose to the Giants. That's like 100%.
There's so many scenarios that can happen. The best case scenario is just to win out.
Yeah, 10-7 would be great.
But the Rams have to play the Niners the last week. This is why a lot of Rams fans wanted the Niners to win against Baltimore because it solidifies a 1 seed. Yeah. Now, can't the Niners still get the 1 seed?
They can. They can before if Philly loses to Arizona, which is not going to happen. And no, they're not losing to Arizona. And they would need Detroit to lose to Miami. Yeah. I mean, Detroit to lose to Dallas. Because Dallas has 5 losses, so they kind of need. Yes. And I actually think, is that game in Dallas? I think Dallas will win that game.
It's indoors anyway.
Well, I think Dallas will actually win that game.
Yeah.
But going back to your point, the Niners desperately need the 1 seed. They're kind of hobbling in at this point. I think a lot of people can agree, like when a team gets completely outclassed and still is the Super Bowl favorite after the game, it kind of shows, I think, what people really think the team can become. They're still the favorite. It didn't change. The Ravens didn't become the favorite.
They should be.
When is Brock Purdy ever going to throw 4 interceptions again in an NFL game? If he does, they're toast. I don't think it happens again the rest of the season. Could be wrong. Hopefully, knock on wood. Hopefully it doesn't happen. No, I don't know if that's wood, but we have to find some floor. There you go. Hopefully the Niners are never behind in the playoffs, so they can win because Kyle can't coach from behind. And let's talk about that though, because that's like a huge thing. Like Kyle is probably the best play caller in the NFL with McVay. I think in Reed, they're both up there, but he's the best play caller in a correct game script, right? If it's a negative game script, if he's behind, he doesn't know what to do.
It's weird though, right? Like, why is that? Is that just like a phobia? Is that like something where the style of players that he has can adapt to being down? Is it? I don't know why that is, because your offensive game plan shouldn't change regardless. Like, you should still go in with the mindset of, okay, we're going to run our plays, we're going to run our sets, we're going to use our players to the best of our abilities, no matter if we're down or we're up. Is it the defense?
I think what happens is the defense is, I feel like, you're more on edge if the Niners are rolling, which they were in that first drive. Mm-hmm. Like, I fully believe, and this is bias aside, fully believe if Purdy doesn't throw that pick to Kyle Hamilton, they score a touchdown, the Niners win that game probably. I think, because the Niners were, Kittle had 75 yards. The problem there is I think Kyle tries to really, he tries to fine-tune everything to the point where he kind of loses reality of certain situations. Because, George Kittle went for those 2 huge gains, and they were first in, 15? Mm-hmm. First and 12? everybody is dropping into coverage after 75 yards passing. They should have ran McCaffrey on a draw or up the middle or something because he would have gotten 10 easy yards. And then what happens? If you do that, then the next play you can pass, and Debo's open on that exact route or whatever you do. Because everyone dropped into coverage, Grant. That's why Brock missed his read.
Yeah.
I mean, Debo, first of all, it would have been a touchdown if he threw it a little earlier.
Yeah,
but,
that's true.
But everybody was dropped. No one was rushing him on that play. By the way, also, something else we have to take note here is look at the teams that beat them. Very blitz heavy. Brock Purdy normally was very good against the blitz. But, if you start blitzing and blitzing and blitzing, and you can get pressure on him once or twice, he's easily rattled. He is. And I hate to say it.
So is that like a piece of the offensive line being not as strong as it was in years past? Because Trent Williams missed a few of those possessions.
And that's
late.
why he threw the last interception.
Exactly. So Trent Williams has been banged up a little bit here and there over the course of the season. That's when Brock Purdy has kind of taken a dive down. Those are his worst performances.
Yeah.
When he didn't have Trent Williams as the left tackle. So I don't know. Like, you can point to a lot of things, obviously. Oh, well, it was this, it was this, it was that. I think if we look at it in the totality, though, the Niners, like, it doesn't change my perspective on who they are. They still are uber talented. They're still greatly coached. Their kicker's just fine. I know a lot of people were getting up in arms.
It was like 58 out of 58 on PATs.
He's fine. They have such an excellent team that one loss, I know it's the Ravens, I know it's a top team, and I know it's probably a team that they might face in the Super Bowl. It's my Super Bowl pick still. I'm not changing it. It doesn't change the fact that they're such a good team. Sure, they didn't play well, and it was at home, fine. I've seen a lot of instances where there's a huge matchup in the regular season, right? Oh, these two teams, we may see them down the line, and one team falls off the cliff and one team just keeps on going. The team that's favorited loses, they still go to the Super Bowl. They still put up a run in the playoffs. I don't think one loss, we were saying this before off camera, is that this loss humbles them. It's a good thing.
You'd rather have that now,
right? Because they are winning. McCaffrey's firing on all cylinders. Purdy's MVP candidate. Now you kind of get, okay, well, let's take a step back. We have to work on things. We have to sort things out now. So I think it was good for them to lose now.
Yeah, and I also 100%. I also think there's a certain pressure on them this year. They're just so good, and I think people at this point expect them to win the Super Bowl. I mean, they're like plus 225 on some books, which is like a crazy short odds right there. Like no one should ever take those odds, even though it's likely to happen. Those are bad odds. They're plus 800, 850 in the preseason. I think there's a lot of pressure because Kyle Shanahan's seen as this like elite coach. And he has all these great players, and they've gotten so close so many times. Like, he's got to win. Like, for him, I think minimum this team needs to be in the Super Bowl this year. Do they have to win? I think, yeah. But if they lose, I think you can, like, justify certain things. Like, okay, they got out of the NFC.
It's hard.
They've done it a few times.
I know, but
I mean, Kyle's done it once, with the Niners.
Yeah.
I just think, like, right now I'm looking at the NFC teams. The Rams are really the only team I can look at that I'm like, okay, they can. No, you're right.
The
Rams are the only team I look at and I can see, okay, they can go toe to toe offensively with the Niners. Because Philadelphia, Jalen's has a ton of problems. I'm so at this point, Philadelphia does not scare me. Now, maybe I'm crazy for that.
Well,
Dallas,
we said this a month ago that we were like,
people were trying to clown us. Like I think he might still be hurt, by the way. And I think Shane Steichen is also an elite OC. Yes. You see that with the Colts. I mean, they have like 9 or 10 wins. They're not even.
The Colts should be 8-6.
And they have Gardner Minshew as their quarterback, right? I mean, so I think there's a multitude of things here. The Niners should be in the Super Bowl still. Yeah. I think they should get the 1 seed. They have to win out. They have to take care of business, right? But if they get the 1 seed, I think it's really hard, for Philly or Dallas to go in the divisional round, beat them. And then in the NFC title, it's, either Detroit, Philly, or Dallas as well, because the Rams would be probably a divisional. It'd probably, right? Unless because the number 1 seed would face the lowest seed. Yeah. And I doubt Dallas, Dallas is going to win. Philly's not going to lose to Seattle, probably. Well, they did, but I don't think they lose at home to Seattle. Okay? So I'm just thinking about it theoretically. If the Niners get past the Rams, let's say they play the Rams in the divisional round, Rams upset the Lions. I think, they get up for that game. I think it's a Niners win. I think it could be close. I think the Rams are annoying. They're an annoying team. But I think right now, I don't think there's any team that what the Ravens just did to them, I don't think there's any team in the NFC that can do that to the Niners right now. Like in
Yeah,
my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, I think if they're going to lose, it's probably in the Super Bowl. And I hate to say that because Niner fans should have PTSD. They've choked every year. It's just the truth, the fact of the matter. I'm saying that as a Niners fan. But I'm saying I stand by this take. I don't care if they lose to Washington this weekend, which they won't, but I don't care if they do, okay? I would be more surprised if the Niners are not in the Super Bowl than if they are. That's like, to me, they should be. The AFC is a different animal, right? Because Baltimore has to get through all these physical teams. Like Cleveland's playing well with Joe Flacco. Miami's playing well. You can never count out Kansas City. Jacksonville maybe, but Jacksonville or Houston, like Jacksonville really needs Christian Kirk, so they're kind of out.
Right.
But there's so many teams. I still think it's probably Baltimore Niners, like you said.
Yeah,
But I think the NFC at this point, with what we've seen from the Eagles, is a little bit of an easier path than the AFC, no?
Yeah, here's what I want to say about the NFC, because the Cowboys are still a very good football team. The Eagles are still a good football team. I'm going to say very good because they almost lost to the Giants on Christmas Eve. On Christmas Day, wasn't it?
Christmas Day, yeah.
The Rams, momentum matters. Like, being hot going in matters. I'm going to relate this to basketball, but look at the Heat. Right? They were hot going in. Sure, they were a play-in team. They were hot throughout. They just rode that high all the way through. Look at the 2007 Giants. Look at the 2012 Giants.
But the Rams in 2020, was that 21?
Yeah, the Rams in 2021.
And Niners, both wild card
The Rams
teams, right?
they didn't win in November in 2021 and when the Rams won the Super Bowl, but they got hot towards the end and they lost to the Niners last week. But what did they do? They kept their composure. This is much like what the Niners should be able to do. You keep your composure, you know what you got, and you keep on chugging.
I think
because you're not going to get distraught over what's the Niners' record right now?
11-4.
11-4, and people are saying, "Oh, well, now they're beatable." Everybody's beatable. The Niners were beatable before this.
Yeah.
It's just that now you kind of have a little bit of a scheme that you can throw at them. Maybe play zone, maybe blitz, like you were saying. So for the Rams, their offense is clicking. They are healthy. I'm not going to say that this team's going to go to the Super Bowl.
They could.
But riding that high and riding that momentum is so key in football. Because when you get after that bye, it was like a completely different team. And when you have guys that have done it before, Matthew Stafford, Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, it's a little bit easier. Sean McVay. These guys know what it's like to get hot going in. So if there were teams that I would say are the biggest threat to the Niners, because I still believe the Niners are the team to beat, not just in the NFC, in all of football. I know the Ravens beat them. They're my second pick. I think that if you're the Rams, you probably have the best shot to do it because you've seen them play already. It would be twice by the time they get to the playoffs. And you almost beat them at home in week 2.
You did beat them
healthy.
in different teams, but still.
So I think for now, you got to wait till week 18. I want to see how these teams approach it, how they attack each other. If the Niners do play starters in the second half, I do think they'll play in the first half. I don't think the Niners want to see the Rams in the playoffs, so I think they're going to try to do everything possible to knock them out in Week 18, if that is a possibility.
Yeah.
I think they'd rather do that than maybe say, let's rest everybody. If we get the 2 seed, fine. I think they just don't want to see the Rams in there at all, which is what the Rams did in 2021 against the Niners.
Yeah.
They basically had the division wrapped up. I know they had to win, and they had to get a little bit of help. But the Niners came out, and they won that game because the Rams kind of took their foot off the pedal.
Yeah,
right?
They did.
They were up 17-0.
Yeah.
The Niners ended up winning. Sure, the Rams won the division, but
that's the only game I've ever seen Kyle come back from 17-0.
So the Niners can't take that approach. They have to keep their foot on the pedal, and I think the Rams could be one of the biggest threats to them if they get past Detroit. If it's a 3-6 matchup, which is going to be amazing.
I also think Detroit. Detroit at San Francisco would be a great matchup.
That would be amazing too. Like we're going to get some really good football
matchups. Really good football games.
I don't want to see the Seahawks.
Seahawks, yeah, but the Seahawks are going to be in. I mean, I think there's
that's just a Rams.
I think Week 17 this weekend is not going to show much. I think
it's Week 18.
I think it's week 18 when you see Rams Niners. I feel like that's going to show a lot about where the teams are. That's a divisional game. I'm assuming the Rams and Niners take care of business, and again, look, if the Niners lose to the Commanders, they should pack their bags.
Same with the Rams. If you lose to the Giants, you deserve to
don't be in the playoffs. Go home. Commanders, I know Jacoby's way better than Sam Howell right now, and maybe that poses a better threat, because he cooked the Rams in the
He
second
did.
half. But I think the fact of the matter is the Niners should come out, gunning in that game, win that game. Week 18 is going to show a lot.
Mhm.
If the Niners go out and bum rush the Rams, like if it's like 42 to like 17,
20-something.
then that might just completely just ruin the Rams' confidence going into the playoffs. It might ruin them. But if it's very close, the Niners have lost every close game but the game against the Rams.
And I'm going to reference that 2021 run
Yeah.
where we saw them meet in the NFC Championship. The Niners won that last game and then went into Green Bay and beat them.
Yeah.
Or they went into Dallas and then Green Bay.
Yeah, that was a really
Which is
gutsy
insane
team.
because they got that last win. It's like, hey, if we can beat the Rams who won the division, we can beat anybody.
Yeah.
So I think the Rams are going to kind of –
And technically they were ahead to get – I mean, not technically. They were ahead in the fourth quarter against the Rams in the NFC Championship game. I mean, that's the closest Kyle's been since that.
So
Obviously,
momentum matters. Confidence matters. Being hot going in matters.
I think the Lions are doing that right now. If the Lions pick up a win against, Dallas, that's huge for them. I also think, I just feel like I'm looking at all the scenarios. And this is my last point I want to say about the Niners. I'm looking at all the scenarios. I just see McCaffrey. I see Debo. I see, Kittle. I see, if they're healthy, Trent Williams, their defense. I know Jair Brown just got a sprained knee. Tough, whatever. Hopefully he's back by the playoffs. To be honest with you, Grant, if they're getting pressure on the quarterback, their secondary doesn't matter. They just need Ward and Lenoir out there. They could even play Ryan or Oliver, and they're not even that good, and they could probably sustain. I just can't see a scenario unless Brock turns the ball over like he did, where they're where they
on their heels.
Yeah, when they're on their heels like that. I
just don't.
They outgained the Ravens. I don't think people realize that. Of course, granted, the Ravens had, much less field position because Brock was just giving it to them at the 30-yard line, right? So that's a misleading stat. I think if they can limit their turnovers, like every Niners team of the past 4 or 5 years, if they limit their turnovers, they will likely be in the NFC Championship at the very least, right? And then hopefully you have a healthy quarterback and they go to the Super Bowl. I just think this is now a good story for Purdy. I've never seen someone being so hated that's an underdog. I mean, it's crazy. People just wait for the one bad game and they're just screw this guy. Screw this. Who's this clown?
He's system QB. He's washed. He sucks. It was a flash in the pan.
By the way, he's gonna be the single season record holder at quarterback for the 49ers for passing yards, for touchdowns, and for passer rating and for yards per attempt. I honestly think it's unfair, even though he threw those 4 picks, for him to fall down to 5th in MVP voting. Yeah. I think it should still be him and McCaffrey. I don't think because I think
Lamar Jackson does.
Yes, but he doesn't have the stats. He doesn't. I think the stats matter a little bit. I think yes. If you're talking about pure most valuable player, yeah, Lamar Jackson or Christian McCaffrey, right? But if you're or Tyreek Hill. But if you're talking I feel like the award should go to McCaffrey or Tyreek Hill. Am I wrong there? I think McCaffrey's the MVP of the league. He's going to have over 2,000 all-purpose yards. 25 touchdowns probably. What he's able to do with this offense. We saw it when Brock was struggling. Who kept them in the game in the first half? McCaffrey.
He's played in every game.
Exactly. And I think the fact of the matter is, I know it's a QB award. I think it would be a real shame to a generational talent like McCaffrey to not give him the award, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, his offensive stats are unbelievable. Something that he probably can't even replicate. Maybe next year he could get close, but what he's been doing this year, I mean, shout out to my fantasy team. Shout out to you for helping me pick him. I mean, even if you look at my fantasy points, he's literally in the 25+ category every single game. He's completely transformed that offense, which was already a good offense.
Yeah.
Before he even got there. But now it's just supercharged. You can use him in the slot. You can use him out of the backfield. You can use him in handoffs, counters, dives, whatever you want to use in the red zone. He'll get you I mean, he even had a long run in that Ravens game that kind of set them up. So McCaffrey, to me, if you take him off that Niners team, now they're very beatable, which means that, yes, he is a most valuable. We kind of tend to stray away from the word. It's most valuable. It's not the best quarterback. It's most valuable player. So, the Ravens with who was their backup?
Huntley, they were winning games.
They almost beat the Bengals in the first round last year with him.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Lamar Jackson's a bad player. I want to preface this because me and him love Lamar Jackson. We think he's an excellent ball player.
I mean, I think
and we think the Ravens are a
disrespected.
fantastic team, which is why I picked them to go to the Super Bowl. But we're looking at it from the perspective of this was a Week 15, 16 game that you can look at and say, okay, yeah, you take a loss, but if I'm the Niners, the most valuable player is Christian McCaffrey. He's been the most valuable player for like 4 weeks. Because if you take him off the team, they are more beatable than they are now. And if you take Lamar Jackson off, like I just mentioned, they almost beat the Bengals without him last year with an inferior team, by the way. I just think that Christian McCaffrey has earned the right to be an MVP. I mean, I hate the narrative that it has to be a quarterback award.
Stupid narrative.
It's got to stop being that. We have to change. Even if it's Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill's been putting up generational numbers, and he's like 4th on the list. Why? Yeah. Just because it's a quarterback, that's why, it's Purdy or Prescott or Lamar
Someone
Jackson.
said Tua, and I'm like, Tua?
Relax. It can be somebody other than – that's what I think Cooper Kupp should have gotten it a few years ago. He was insanely valuable to the Rams.
Who won that year? Aaron Rodgers? Aaron Rodgers. Yeah, because I remember the Niners went and beat him, and Aaron Rodgers threw like 200 yards in that game. He was terrible. That's when Robbie Gould hit the field goal.
So I think we just have to get away from the fact that it's a QB award. It can be McCaffrey's. It can be Tyreek Hill's.
Now, let me say this, fantasy-wise. I told everybody McCaffrey was the number 1 pick this year, and he's the number 1 pick next year, and he's the number 1 pick the year after till we see a fall-off in this Kyle Shanahan offense. He is the LaDainian Tomlinson of our generation for fantasy purposes. And by the way, he's a generational talent. He's the best player in the National Football League. And I feel like, this is the disrespect has to stop. There's no picking a wide receiver first next year. The running back's a premium position. You pick Christian McCaffrey if you have the number 1 pick next year. A lot of it was injury concerns. Knock on wood, but he hasn't been hurt yet. Severely. He's been hurt a few times, and they play a physical game. But, his body is sustaining a little more. I also think the Panthers had no line. They were terrible. That put him in susceptible positions to get hurt. I think now, he's in a much better system that protects him. I just think I can't stress my admiration for him enough. I think, we're watching an all-time great play the game of football. And I think, it'd be great for him to get a ring. I know maybe you're a Rams fan, you don't want to see that, but it'd be great to see McCaffrey with a ring, in my opinion.
I picked him to go to this. I'm going to be as real as it gets when it comes to sports takes.
Keep knocking on them.
I'm going to be as real as it gets when it comes to sports states. I know what kind of situation the Rams are in. Now, obviously, they're in a retool year, but if you look at it, I thought the Niners and the Ravens had the best teams in their respective conferences.
You're right, and you were absolutely right.
I don't care about the fandom of this or fandom of that. I'm going to tell you what I think.
And I thought the Rams were still, a year or two away.
Yeah, me too.
I'm going to say this. I think next year and the year after is wow, the league better watch out. I think the Rams have a ton of cap space.
First round draft pick for the first time since Jared Goff, which is crazy. It's a crazy stat. 2016.
The Niners are actually going to get a first round draft pick.
See?
So they need to draft a lineman. Their line is terrible.
No,
I don't think
get a corner.
No, I don't think people realize Brock Purdy's putting up the most yards per attempt, the most EPA, the best EPA, the most accurate passer downfield. He's putting up these historic numbers, albeit that game against, the Ravens, with the 26th ranked offensive line. Besides Trent Williams and Feliciano, who's come out of nowhere and been good, the line sucks. At the end of the day, Purdy is, I don't care what people say, Purdy is a top 10 quarterback for sure, and he's a top 5 quarterback this season. You can't take one game and say, this guy sucks, okay? You're playing the Ravens defense, who are great, and you got to look at the body of work. And the body of work shows he went into Lincoln Financial when the Eagles were 10-1 and hooked them. I know Debo had a lot of yards after catch. Congratulations. You want a medal? The Seahawks twice. Back when the Seahawks were must-win games for the Seahawks. Beat them twice. Rams. He cooked. Cooked the Rams, okay? Cowboys. Absolutely cooked the Cowboys. Cardinals. Well, that's a different company. It's Cardinals.
Vikings.
No, he didn't. Not the Vikings. Vikings blitz a lot. Another blitz-heavy team. Cleveland. It's hilarious.
That's what maybe I am worried about. The one thing I'm worried about is that maybe teams are going to look at that film that the Ravens put out and say, okay, maybe there is a blueprint to beat this team.
Yeah.
But with so many dynamic weapons on offense,
he can change.
I think Kyle Shanahan's going to figure out a way to do it.
I also think Kyle is we talk about McVay being the golden child, the golden coach of the generation. And I think it hurts Kyle because Kyle wants to be known like he's like, I'm the best offensive mind of this generation.
Head to head.
But no, but he has not won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
McVay has
to me.
won that
It's
Super Bowl.
crazy to me.
You can't tell me right now, even
It's
though I
so
deep
crazy.
down I truly think Kyle Shanahan's a better coach than Sean McVay. I can't win that argument because Sean McVay has a Super Bowl, you know? Like,
So
at the end of the day, winning matters. For an organization like the 49ers, they will not remember Kyle Shanahan unless he wins a Super Bowl. Harbaugh will be forgotten in 10 years. He's already forgotten by a lot of Niner people. Like, he went to the Super Bowl, he choked. He lost. Lost against his brother. He lost against his brother.
Oh, that sucks.
He lost against his brother. Now you're
And Joe Flacco.
What happens if the
Wait,
Browns go back to the
I was
Super
gonna say,
Bowl?
like, this is a question I wanted to ask you because not a lot of people are talking about this. We're talking about the cream of the crop and the top. Are there any teams that you could see maybe making a run? Because I feel like maybe
Cleveland.
the Browns.
Cleveland.
could.
They're gritty. They got a good
Dude,
quarterback
like-
now. They get the ball downfield. No Amari Cooper. I mean, David Njoku had 4 catches for 113 yards in the first quarter on Thursday against the first like few possessions against the Jets.
You can go to her.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, I think the reality of the situation is the Browns, they're beat up. They continue to find ways to win.
They have
Good
excellent
teams
defense.
find
You know, they're gonna
excellent
kick their
defense.
ass.
And that's why I say what you want about not having a quarterback. The Vikings are sneaky in a playoff game. They are because they have a good defense. They blitz. Hunter is having an amazing year. I think if you look at the AFC, I don't trust the Dolphins as good as their offense is because of the defense.
We're
I just
forgetting
don't.
one team that you might get to. The Buffalo Bills.
Yep.
Dude.
I think the Buffalo Bills have a shot to get to the Super Bowl.
Me too.
Now it's hard for me to.
Momentum. What was I saying
Yeah,
about the
but
Rams?
I
The
just
Rams
keep-
and the Bills are in the same spot.
I just keep thinking of the logo though
the logo.
of the Super Bowl.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
purple and red. I just
Purple and
think
red.
like,
Well,
oh,
that- I mean-
Vikings Chiefs or not or Niners
No,
Ravens.
no. Oh, we got to. Oh, well, after
Chiefs.
this.
Chiefs are cooked, huh?
Are the Chiefs cooked?
I wouldn't say they're cooked. Like I think they can win 2 playoff. They could very well be in the AFC Championship in the
Because
Super Bowl.
the narrative right now is that, oh my God, the reign is over. We found it out. They're not winning anything this year. We have Raider fans saying that, oh, well, we could still win the division. The Chiefs aren't losing the last 2 games.
They're not.
They're not losing
And the Raiders
to the
aren't winning.
Chargers.
And the Raiders aren't. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have watched the Chargers.
I'll say
recently.
this: I will not bet against Patrick Mahomes.
I mean, exactly,
It's
that's the thing, like-
I think they could very well be in the Super Bowl, but I can't see them beating the Niners.
The Chiefs and the Warriors give me the same vibe, where it's
Yeah.
like I want to write them off. I want
just
to
can't.
so bad.
I can't.
But Mahomes and Steph Curry are so good that they can carry a team by
you know
themselves.
the big problem is Kelsey.
I
I never
why-
thought I'd say
well,
it.
I know
He's
why.
the big problem because Rashee Rice has turned into his number 1 guy.
Yeah.
Like Rashee Rice is good. He hasn't had a wide receiver that talented in a long time. Like I don't
Since
care.
DeMarcus Robinson.
Since Tyreek Hill.
Just kidding.
Demarcus Robinson touchdown like 5 straight games. Sneaky flex start.
I just picked him
in
up
the
because
playoffs.
Cooper was out. So
Yeah. But by the way, I think
the Chiefs.
the Chiefs, they're
I don't know
Kelsey's
about
the
them.
problem. If Kelsey can get back to what he was doing earlier in the season, they're obviously a threat to win any game. But when he's not cooking and Mahomes is forced to like Justin Watson go out there and run like 20 yards, Noah Gray go out and
Even
run 20 yards.
Pacheco.
Pacheco's great. I think they have a team because of their defense. This is the best defense Mahomes has ever had,
Yeah,
by the
which is
way.
crazy.
So they could absolutely go to the Super Bowl in a wide open AFC. I desperately want to see Buffalo, Kansas City, but it's not going to happen,
Ooh.
will it?
How would that work?
Buffalo needs to win out. They'd have 10 or 11
So-
wins, right?
Kansas City would be the 4 seed.
Yeah, but Cleveland keeps winning, so Cleveland's probably going to be the top
Right.
wild card,
it would
right?
be Kansas City and
Cleveland.
And Cleveland.
And that's a freebie
Which-
for Kansas City. No
I don't-
offense.
No, it's
No
not.
offense. Browns. Have you seen the Browns' history?
The Browns almost beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead,
and they beat
with
the Niners.
Baker Mayfield.
They beat the Niners. But I'll say this. I love Joe Flacco, and maybe he changes it. And he looks like he is. You can't tell me like Lions, Browns.
I could.
Dude, and people have not seen the Lions and Browns win since Jimmy Hoffa was buried, bro. Like straight up, like we haven't seen them win since Jimmy Hoffa was buried in the construction of the stadium at Ford Field, dude. Like the
just
Browns
saying.
haven't won in how many years? The Lions haven't won in how many years? I don't care how good they are until I see it. The Niners, they haven't won in 30 years. Cowboys haven't won in 30 years. How are we supposed to say, oh, like it's a lock? Niners are winning the Super. I haven't seen it. But the culture the Niners have created, the reason why they can win this year, is similar to the Celtics in basketball. It's taken years to build up to this new kind of culture. The Browns, I feel like it's out of nowhere. Like I haven't seen it built.
Yeah.
You know, like and to
Yeah.
me that kind of sounds like it's flimsy. Like there's
Yeah,
if you get him on an off day, you can really
yes,
screw him.
I understand.
Like you know
that.
what I mean?
I understand that.
Like that's my thought there.
I understand that. I just think that, with so much uncertainty in this NFL, like I never saw the Chiefs being this bad.
No.
I never saw the Lions being this good. I thought they were going to be better. I didn't think they were going to be
Well, that was
this
free money
good.
over 9.5 wins.
And I didn't see the Eagles slipping up this bad.
I didn't see the Jaguars.
I didn't see
becoming
the
this
Rams
bad.
being that. I didn't see the Jags being this bad. Like there's so many things that have gone wrong for teams that I can, like. Let me just ask you this: do you think that the Lions and the Dolphins are kind of in the same scenario where
Yes.
they're good,
Yes.
but like nobody really trusts them? Nobody's
Yeah.
really like,
Yeah.
hey, I think they can go to the Super Bowl. It's always like if you look at their record and their stats and their players,
Like,
they're like,
oh,
whoa,
great
this
team.
team's good.
Yeah.
But then you look at it again and you're like, well, if you catch them
No,
on an
dude,
off day,
there's always a
like-
few teams like that.
right?
They remind me of the Cardinals the year the Rams won the
Yes,
Super Bowl.
yes.
Both of those teams remind me of the Cardinals. Young play caller.
Mhm.
Mike McDaniel is way more competent, obviously, than
Yeah,
Kingsbury.
good coach.
But Murray was having an MVP type year. It was his second
Yeah.
and third year in the league. He was great. I mean, Hopkins was great that year. They had just traded for DeAndre Hopkins,
I think
right?
they have Kingsbury.
Kingsbury, they had a good, decent defense. They still had a couple
They had J.J.
guys.
Watt, too.
JJ Watt that year. I think like that's a team that I would attribute them to. And another team I think is the Deshaun Watson Houston Texans.
Yeah,
Like that's
yeah.
another team on paper looked really good. And then
dude.
they were up 27-0 against the Chiefs and
Or like the
choked.
Titans.
Or the
Like
Titans the
Titans.
year they won the like when the Titans were the 1 seed, people were like, this is the worst 1 seed of all time.
And the Bengals beat them.
They beat Lamar though, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. No, I think
Who
that was
beat
the year
Lamar?
before.
That was the year before.
Yeah. But the
that's-
Titans were the 1 seed, and I was like,
That's another thing.
No,
The Ravens. Lamar, how many playoff games has Lamar won?
that's true.
0, right?
That's
Am I
true.
wrong? He's won 0 playoff
I don't
games.
think he's won a playoff game. Too.
But I just trust the logo. Give me Ravens Niners. I trust the logo.
I mean, I just think talent-wise that they've progressed. Like
You
they've
want to
gotten a
hear
lot
the
better.
DVOA, an advanced stat that
I would love to.
It tells you offensively and defensively. It combines all these advanced stats and all these regular stats, puts them all together.
It's a perfect stat for me because I don't get a lot of it. So
And basically DVOA, the Niners and the Ravens, 2 of the best 3 teams since 1980. So statistically. So this is like people are saying, oh, the NFL sucks top to bottom, maybe, but we're looking at like this would be an epic Super Bowl, Niners Ravens. That would be like brutal, physical, violent football. Like that, like is like even we saw it in that game. We saw it like Roquan was
dude,
like.
he was great.
What about when Kyle Hamilton hit Debo, and Debo just
Yeah.
came off? Wasn't that Kyle Hamilton who
Yeah.
hit him? Yeah, and then Debo just like kind of.
They did Patrick Queen. They have
Patrick
a
Queen.
lot of
Queen's
great-
good.
they have
And
a
how?
lot of-
By the way, how did Kyle Hamilton fall to 20 like
Oh my-
something to them?
Just like Jalen Carter falling all the way down to the 30s for
No, not 30s,
Oh,
but
whatever
you
it
went to like
was.
10 or 12 or
no,
something.
you know
but,
what I
like-
mean. Like I don't know how we let him fall.
Yeah,
that
but
far.
Hamilton was like a widely known. There's always this happens in every NFL draft. It'll happen next year where there's a few guys that are like, okay, top 5 all year, and then all of a sudden through the draft process they're like, oh, maybe not, and they fall to like 20 and they become superstars.
Stupid.
Kyle Hamilton. Another guy is like Jared Verse from Florida State. Latu has now eclipsed him from UCLA, who's great. But like Jared Verse was like a
Rams.
top 5 guy, edge rusher, and now you might fall like the 20s. And it's like, it's a guy like that. Or, people are now going to be obsessed with Jaden Daniels and Drake May. And it's like, dude, like it's Caleb Williams. Don't look at it. And then
A lot of mock drafts I'm seeing, it's not Caleb Williams at 1.
which is dumb.
It's Drake
which is
May.
dumb. Who's Drake May remind you of?
Justin Herbert.
Okay, a loser. Can't win big games. And who else? Josh Allen. I mean, that's his comp.
That's true. Turnovers, very physical, good size, but like
It's boom bust.
It's
Will
kinda-
Levis.
They're like the Lions.
Like
of
Will Levis,
quarterbacks.
maybe. Like, I mean, he's a better prospect
like
than
the
Will
Lions
Levis.
and Dolphins of quarterback.
Like to me, I saw
I
no.
trust him,
Bro,
but I don't.
I saw no consistency with Drake May at North Carolina. 0. Talent-wise, he's great. One of the physical specimen, right? Like, he can run. He's Josh Allen, Justin Herbert mix. But Josh Allen and Justin Herbert also have a ton of flaws in their game. So does Drake May. Again, I don't know if he's as good as Josh Allen or Justin Herbert. I don't think he is. I don't think he is. I think if you're looking at a sleeper quarterback in the NFL draft, it's Michael Penix.
Thank you. Oh my God.
I don't care about his injury history. I don't care that he's 24. He can sling it. He has great accuracy downfield. Yes, he had all college, all pro receivers in college, Nduze and, McMillan or whatever.
So good.
And it's like, okay, congratulations. The best quarterbacks in the NFL have great playmakers.
Yeah.
That's why the Brock Purdy hate is ridiculous. Patrick Mahomes had Kelsey and Hill. Okay, and we were already calling this guy the GOAT. And look what happens this year when Kelsey's not performing. He doesn't have Tyreek Hill.
OBJ and Cooper Kupp.
And Stafford had Calvin Johnson for the first half of his career.
Yeah.
Like, dude, the reason why we're not talking, who does Bryce Young have 33-year-old Adam Thielen, and we're saying this
pretty good.
and we're saying this kid's a bust. Like, it's 1 year, dude. Like, the guy doesn't have anybody to throw to. Like,
Justin Fields too.
That matters, bro. That matters. Where you get drafted matters. Like, if Caleb goes to the Commanders and they get an extra lineman, he could be good because he has receivers. They have McLaurin. They have, Curtis Samuel. They have a few guys. Like Logan Thomas is a decent tight end. They need a running back. I've never been, I know B-Rob got shot and he's tough, but I don't think he's a good running back if you ask me. Antonio Gibson's too hit or miss. They have a lot of work to do, but that's a team I can see. Like, if you're telling me Patriots, like, no. Who do the Patriots have? Who's their number one receiver? Demario Douglas?
Oh, God.
Undrafted free agent. He's good, but like he's like not like
that is a black hole.
Okay, and then what about Chicago?
Prospect?
DJ Moore. Okay, but like maybe but it's still the Bears. Like if Fields was drafted by the Rams, he'd be a 2-time All-Pro already.
Oh, yeah.
People don't realize the system matters. The system matters. When guys like Cam Newton, guys are talking about like, okay, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, all these guys are system quarterbacks. Well, Jared Goff. Okay. Technically, he's right and he's wrong. Like, he's right in the sense, like, those guys, if you put them on the Bears, would all suck. But if you put them on the Niners, would all be great, right? Like, technically, he's right, but you could say the same thing except
about Patrick freaking Mahomes. He doesn't have
Joe Burrow.
He doesn't have any receivers, and he's not as good as
What about Joe
Russell
Burrow?
Wilson has been.
Wait. Joe Burrow. Jake Browning is cooking teams. He's cooking teams.
Oh, we're going to call him a system quarterback now, too?
Yeah.
No.
The Brock Purdy hate is ridiculous. I don't get it personally. I don't get it.
It doesn't even just relate to Brock Purdy, though. It's a lot of quarterbacks.
It is a lot of quarterbacks, but you know why it's Brock Purdy? Because everyone does not want to admit they fucked up letting him go to the 7th round in the last pick. No one wants to admit it. Every analyst that called this guy shit, that called this guy garbage and blah, 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 and draft guys that were like, oh, he's small, he's this. They don't want to admit he can play football.
They said the same thing about Puka.
And
they said the same thing about Puka Nakua. No explosiveness. I don't know if he can break his routes. Shut up.
Bro, they said the same shit about Fred Warner. Kidding? Fred Warner, too.
All you have to do is look at film and know if a guy's good. That's what I do. I look at film and I analyze video and I see him in person and I say, well, this guy looks pretty damn good to me.
Like, I've looked at Drake May's film.
That's what matters.
I've looked at Drake May's film, and if he doesn't go to the right situation, he will fail miserably. Maybe he provides something if they get a number one wide receiver like Josh Allen, but like Caleb is a guy that if you go to the right system, he's a superstar. He is.
And I want to mention something, which is part of the reason why we have so many horrible quarterbacks that are playing right now.
Yeah.
I feel like the eye for talent or the scouting or something is off. Because there's no way you can have Jaron Hall starting for a Vikings team that needs a good quarterback after Kirk Cousins went down. There's no reason Jake Browning's been doing pretty good. But the Jets started Zach Wilson.
And Trevor.
They drafted him at number 2. Like, there are so many picks nowadays in the NFL where I'm like, what the hell are you thinking? Why are you picking this guy in this scenario? I knew it from the start it wasn't going to work.
Well, we knew.
There are a lot of teams that where I say, hey, that's a damn good pick, and that's the teams that are good at scouting and looking at players. I'm going to say the Rams because the Rams are good at scouting.
Except Bennett, but yeah.
Right. Well,
we knew that was a bad pick. No, it's a bad pick.
It's a bad pick. But there are so many teams that make these picks where it's like, dude, I saw it before you even did it. And you have a brain trust and a group of people in the front office that are telling you that that's a good pick.
Why do you think this?
Zay Flowers.
Yeah,
the
Chargers drafted Quinton Johnson over Zay Flowers and Jordan Addison.
What were we saying? To pick Addison or Flowers? You had
the
2.
Draft. Yeah, 2 guys. Like, explosive, great guys. Like, you watch the tape.
I'm not even a Chargers fan, and it just irks me.
And then everybody, like, people on Reddit knew Tank Dell was a superstar. Just watch his tape in college. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Dude,
like for me, Puka Nakua, watch his tape at BYU. Good.
I'm asking a genuine question. Why do you think they're missing on so many picks?
There's been a lot of people, And I'm not look, I'm not in an NFL front office.
Either.
Okay,
I'm not either.
I think
but
there's a lot of
I'm
people.
looking at it from a fan's
There's a lot of
perspective.
people like Brandon Staley that were overqualified for certain roles that were
Arthur Smith.
That were Arthur Smith, who's a billionaire, by the way. His dad founded FedEx, right? I think that's I mean, he doesn't need to coach football.
Yes.
Fire him and give someone who can actually coach. He has $1 billion.
I can name so many coaches that are deserving.
Arthur Smith is a disgrace to football. No one should be watching Falcons games. I'd rather have my eyes bleed and watch paint dry than watch a fucking Falcons game.
I'm not going to say that. But.
Excuse my language. I'd rather have my eyes bleed and watch paint dry than watch Arthur Smith just mismanage Pitts, Bijan, Drake London should be a top 15 receiver.
With the amount of talent they have, there's no reason
bro?
Why they shouldn't be better. I mean, I know they're like.
Have you
fighting
seen
for a
Drake
playoff
London's
spot.
hands and his physicality? Like he can catch the
Saw
football.
at USC. I didn't need to watch it now.
But like, no one wants to go to the Falcons because they suck.
What do we say about Amon-Ra? How
Amon-Ra,
good?
great.
Oh, well, I don't know if he'll project.
He's small. Brock Purdy's small. Oh, but Brock Purdy did throw that one to Debo, and because he was small, it got tipped.
Oh my God!
But
so what?
Exactly.
He's not even putting up all-time numbers.
I know
right now.
exactly. The point here is, Grant. People have been promoted, overqualified for positions, and it's the same organizations making those mistakes.
And it's more and more now, though, isn't it?
Like
more and more. I
the
see this
organizations just continuously just make bad decisions.
Russell Wilson just got cut after his second year.
And he's playing better than Patrick Mahomes this year. I don't care what you say. Russell Wilson has had a better season than Patrick Mahomes.
I don't care, though. It's still a bad trade. They should have never made that trade. But I don't care. You saw a decline at the end of his Seahawks days, and the Broncos still said, hey, Seahawks, here's everything in our future and money and everything. Here you go.
Now that's why
they're going to eat it. That's what they get.
Yep.
There are so many teams like that, though.
Well, there's also how many teams are actually competing every single year. How many teams can you rely on that can compete? Like, I feel like coaching, it's hard to find an elite coach. Like, how many elite coaches are there, right? Like for me, the Bengals. I
think we're throwing out elite too often.
Okay, good to great coaches, and then the elite coaches are like there's like 5, right? There's like Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, and who are the 2 I'm missing?
Sirianni.
Not Sirianni. Absolutely not. Definitely not. Big Fat Mike.
Harbaugh.
John. Great coach. You're right. Okay, and then who's the 5th?
I would put O'Connell in there from the Vikings. He's a good coach.
I think Doug Peterson's a great coach.
No. Not
he
in
is.
my opinion.
He is, bro.
No. Have you seen what the Jags have been doing lately? What? You tell me why.
Without Christian Kirk, it's
different. You know what? The Browns lost Deshaun Watson, one guy, and they're dominating right now.
I don't think
the Rams have lost everybody, and they're dominating right now.
I think maybe it's Trevor Lawrence.
It's something with the Jags because there's no reason we should be talking about them like this.
Trevor Lawrence he is like physically one of the, you look at him, you look at his tape, like what should be one of the greatest players that's ever played the game. And I see him making so many freaking bonehead plays. It's crazy. Like he'll just throw into triple coverage. Like he'll just like throw, like you think Brock Purdy's bad. He's worse. He takes way more risks than Brock Purdy. And Brock Purdy actually makes more big plays than Trevor Lawrence.
That's
tell me right now. Tell me right now.
Not
on coaches. Tell me right now. Would you rather have Brock Purdy or Trevor Lawrence?
Oh, Brock Purdy.
Is that really a hot take?
All right. Here's a specific example. I had both of them, and I started Brock Purdy, and I made it pretty far into the playoffs.
Yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't I pick Purdy?
I mean,
I look at stats and I see and I've watched the games and I'm like, hey, Lawrence, sure. Oh my God, it's Trevor Lawrence. Wow. Brock Purdy had better stats the whole year. The whole year.
And he's younger.
More accurate, better game manager. That's
they're the same age. It's not.
Right.
Either way, but I think going back to the point, there's a reason we see the Niners every year getting far. Reason we see the Eagles.
Good system, good coaching.
Good general managers like John Lynch, Howie for the Eagles. Les Snead. Les Snead.
You say what you want about Jerry Jones, but he gets them good players year in,
Yes, he does. So, they have good teams. They have a bad coach. That's
even the
Packers
problem.
Packers, like Jaden Reed, stud. They found him. Yeah, but he's better than freaking Quentin Johnston, Jaden Reed. They found this guy. Christian Watson, good when he plays. His health has been a concern. But Jordan Love, great quarterback. I think at the end of the day, it's about the organizations. You look at it, it's the same organizations doing well. The Patriots suck because it was Brady most of the time.
Yeah.
It just was.
It
Say what you
was.
want.
It
Like
was.
say what you want about Belichick. Belichick's getting exposed
Oh,
now. He's not a terrible football coach, but he's a terrible GM, and he was always a terrible GM. And it literally took Randy Moss begging Brady for that to really change the kind of dynamic there in
That's
New England
crazy.
to run that scheme, which is crazy, by the way. But again, a lot of it is coaching. There's not a lot of great coaches. Coaches are getting fired every year, and I think the fact of the matter is that is how it is. But anyways, we'll leave it there. Anything else you want to talk about?
That was so great. I'm so glad we got all of this off our chest. All right. Before we go into the
Okay.
playoffs, who's your pick for the Super Bowl?
I can't go against the logo. Ravens, Niners.
That's mine. It was mine.
My
I'm sticking with it.
preseason, mine was terrible. Mine was Eagles, Bills.
It's not terrible, though.
Eagles, Bills.
Yeah, but it's not terrible. Like, I could see why you did that.
Yeah.
And, number 2, are there any upsets you see in the playoffs?
I see whoever the Rams play, they're gonna beat. So I don't.
Eagles or
It doesn't
Lions?
matter. They'll beat either of those teams. And then they'll
In
play
the
the
AFC,
Niners.
anybody?
AFC,
Like Bills,
AFC. You're gonna
Browns.
hate this.
Who would be the 7th seed in the AFC? Keep forgetting.
I don't know. Is this? NFC. We're forgetting. I think the Bucks could beat the Cowboys.
Oh, yes.
Baker Mayfield is looking great.
Yeah, we can't go yet.
Baker
The Buccaneers
Mayfield.
are really good. Baker Mayfield's really good. Momentum, confidence, what'd I say?
They beat the crap out of the Jags.
Sean McVay revitalized his career. I'm going to say that right now. Sean
He's about to
McVay
get a bag,
revitalized
bro.
Baker Mayfield's career.
Wait. And deservedly so.
Deserving.
He's going to get a good contract.
Mike Evans, still elite. Not on a contract, so he could come to the Rams.
Okay, and look how they did against good teams. They played the Niners earlier in the year. Baker Mayfield still played great.
Yeah.
They lost, but he played
Beat the
great. It was like
Packers
45 to
in
29.
Lambeau.
Yeah.
Best passer rating at Lambeau ever.
In history. He beat the crap out of the Jaguars, who are seen as a better team. He's going to beat the crap out of the Saints.
That's a good point.
I think that's a Cowboys road struggles. That is dangerous.
Shoot.
I think they're on upset alert. Should the Cowboys beat the
Yes.
Buccaneers?
Yes.
Yes, they're a better
Yes.
football team. But I'm just saying, I wouldn't count them out.
I wouldn't
When you
either.
have Mike Evans, who's, by the way, Mike Evans, one of the most underrated receivers in history.
Devin
1,000
White.
yards every year in his career, pretty much. Every year, right?
Yeah.
10 years it's now been, which is crazy.
Elite threat
Godwin,
downfield.
they haven't even been using. Rashad White is a
Rashad
star
White,
out of.
great.
Well,
you
we
said
knew he
that.
was. Well, we saw him play at ASU.
Yeah.
He was great at ASU. It was all. I don't know why they were playing Leonard Fournette last year. Leonard Fournette burst. I mean, his quad is so big.
I don't
I don't
know.
think he could even outrun a snail right
Yeah,
now.
I
His
don't know.
quad is this big.
I don't know
He
what
looks like
happened.
Eddie Lacy all of a sudden. No, he doesn't look like Eddie Lacy. You know, who looks like Eddie Lacy. Najee
Zion?
Harris, Zion, and Najee Harris.
Um,
But okay, look. But
and on defense, Devin White.
Devin
they have
White,
a
that's a good team.
defense.
Another upset, I think. I think upset alert. It would be Niners Rams would be the team, but I think the Niners
Yeah,
would still win.
I
But
think
I think
Niners
it'd be. I think that's an alert at least.
Yeah.
I think if you go Lions
AFC?
Eagles, maybe the Lions can pull it off.
What about the AFC?
AFC? There could be a ton. I could see Cleveland. I could even
Yeah.
see if Lawrence gets healthy. You hate this. I can even see Jacksonville beating a team. Like I can see it. Will it happen? Probably not. You know, they need Christian Kirk to really
Who's
thrive.
beating the Dolphins?
Who's
be-
somebody's going to beat the Dolphins,
Yeah,
right?
Like, because somebody's going.
2-7. Who's the Bills?
Bills could beat the Dolphins easy.
Bills are-
Unless the Bills win the division, which is still
Possible.
on the
It's
table.
possible.
Is it?
Well, no. Yeah, it is. It's
I don't
possible.
know.
It's
Maybe.
possible
Okay.
because they play the Dolphins
Okay.
last week of the season. I think the Bills are beating whoever they play. Okay. Who's the third seed right now?
So it's Browns, Bills.
No, not Browns. Ravens. Ravens, Browns, same division.
Oh yeah.
Ravens. Who am I forgetting? Chiefs. Chiefs are 4.
Who's 2? Why are
Wait.
we forgetting a team?
No. Ravens, Dolphins, Chiefs, Jags, because they both are
Yeah.
leading the division, and then it's Browns,
Browns,
Bills. Who's 7 and 8?
We tripping?
Am
I
I
know I'm
forgetting
forgetting
somebody,
it.
bro? Like I'm forgetting something. Colts
See,
aren't doing anything.
Yeah, the Colts. It's the Colts.
Okay, but
It's definitely
I
the
don't
Colts.
trust CJ Stroud even. I don't trust the Texans in a playoff game. They're too young. They're like a year or two away. I'm just looking right here.
Why did we blank on that?
I don't
well,
know.
It's the Raiders are still 7 and 8.
Raiders, come on now, bro.
Oh, the Steelers and Bengals. 8
hey,
and 7.
Mike Tomlin.
Colts
Hey,
they're all 8-7.
Death
Colts
taxes. Give me if
Mike
there's
Tomlin,
a gun to my head.
don't.
Hold on. If there's a gun to my head, give me Mike Tomlin trying to avoid 500 in a game. Somehow the wizardry.
Wait a minute.
Doesn't matter how bad his team is. He finds a way to avoid
glad you
being
said
under
that.
500.
Are the
Under 500.
Are the Steelers beating the Seahawks this week?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's the
Yes.
answer. I just wanted validity.
Well, maybe not. Maybe they get
Damn.
to 8-8 and then they finish 9-8
Oh,
because that's what
that's what they
Tomlin
did last
does.
year.
Yeah, that's what probably Seahawks win. And
So
then
who do you
they'll
think
finish
gets the 7 seed? Do you think it's the Colts? Because there's 4 teams that are 8-7. It is the
9-8. Bengals, no?
It's the Bengals, the Steelers, the Colts, and the Texans.
Who do the
All-
Bengals play? Kansas City
Yeah,
and then the
so
Browns. So no, they're not getting it. Who do the Steelers play?
They play the Seahawks, and then it's probably interdivision. So they play. Who do they play? The Ravens, but they might sit their players last week.
Probably the Texans. Isn't Stroud back? So probably who they play? Tennessee and the Colts. Yeah. Texans are going to get in, but the Texans will lose to whoever they play.
Yeah,
Dolphins will
they
get
play the
one playoff
Dolphins.
win. Okay, so I think it'll probably
So
go.
jumbled.
I think it's going to go Dolphins. Ravens are going to get the bye. So Dolphins, Ravens. I think Dolphins beat the Texans. 3-6 would be Bills versus Chiefs. Bills. Okay, he's going to get his
and then
revenge at some point.
Jags.
Trust me, Allen's going to get his revenge at some point. Bills are
Jags,
winning.
Browns.
Jags, Browns. I'm going to say probably Cleveland right now.
I'm gonna say it too.
I mean, that's assuming the Jags win the division. By the way, they have to beat the Panthers and they have to beat
Wait,
somebody else.
Who's in that?
Oh
yeah, right.
Colts could
Colts
get
and
in
Texans.
because Shane is such a good coach already. But then I think you have Bills. It would be Bills versus Dolphins. Bills over Dolphins. Ravens, Browns, Ravens. And then I would say Ravens Bills would be an elite AFC title game. I'd say Ravens, and then I would say for the NFC it's probably
So it would be.
Cowboys over Bucks,
Uh-huh.
Lions over Seahawks, even though the Seahawks beat the Lions.
Yes.
Rams over Philly, I would say. But if the Rams have the 6 seed, Rams over Lions.
I don't think the Rams are going to get the 6 seed.
You think
they
the
need to-
Seahawks? Who Seattle play the last 2 weeks?
They play the Titans and the Seahawks play the Steelers and Titans, I believe.
No, it's Titans. They just played. They just beat them.
Oh, that's right.
Who they
did
play in week
They play
18?
somebody bad. The Cardinals, somebody in division bad.
Really? Okay, so Rams over Eagles, Lions over Seahawks. I would say, you know what's crazy? I'm gonna say this.
It's Cardinals, by the
I'm
way.
gonna say Lions over Cowboys, Niners over Rams, Niners,
Niners.
NFC title game, Niners.
Dude, that is so nice.
And then
Like, I want
Niners
that.
over Ravens, I would say, is probably the most likely scenario. Could absolutely be wrong. I have never gotten this right, so don't my Super Bowl pick.
I think nobody ever gets it right.
Well, I
That's why
picked-
nobody ever picks the tournament in March Madness. right.
Exactly,
This is so
exactly.
hard to determine.
So I would say probably if the Rams end up playing the Eagles, I like the Rams. It could absolutely be Philly in SF. Like if
Yeah,
Philly beats the
yeah.
Rams, I don't think the Lions have any chance at beating Philly or the Cowboys on the road. But I think the Lions at home can beat the Cowboys for sure. I think there's a mix. I think the Niners. The best scenario for the Niners is if the Rams just miss the playoffs.
Yeah.
But it's
That's
not
why
going to
I
happen.
think if there's a scenario week 18 where they do have the opportunity to do so, they're going to do it. The
Well,
Niners are going to
because
try
because
to do it.
then who do you have coming in instead of the Rams? Dallas, Green Bay,
Right. It's
Philly,
just
or
such an easier-
it's easy. Lions. Like you have somebody
Packers or
that
Vikings.
Packers.
Like,
It would be somebody. No, it'd probably be Dallas. It'd be the 4 or 5. So it'd be
I know, but
Buccaneers or
like,
Dallas.
Like the team that would get in over the Rams would be the
I
Packers or the
think
Vikings.
what matters most, what we've seen in recent years, besides the Niners and Rams year, the 1 seeds usually make the Super Bowl because that 1 week of rest is so important in football. Yes, it can ruin
That's
momentum.
what I
We've
was
seen
gonna
it a
say.
few times, but
Why not?
the Niners got beat up being the 2 seed last year. They did. Once they played
did.
Dallas. Dallas that was a physical
was a
football
physical
game,
game.
and then Brock ended up getting hurt the next game. They had a few injuries. Meanwhile, Philly played the Giants in the divisional round. That was a bye week. That was an extra bye week. The Giants were never going to beat Philadelphia, and then they played the Niners, an injured Niners team. So they had like the easiest path to the Super Bowl probably ever because they
That's
didn't even have to
crazy.
play a Niners
It was Vikings or Giants.
By the way, the
Oh,
Eagles should have won that Super Bowl. I think.
I agree.
I would have preferred them to win
too.
anyways. Even though I hate the Eagles fans, I think that they were a better team. I think
Yeah, I
Kansas
think the
City
Eagles were
kind of just
fantastic.
Kansas City always has magic in their bag, which is why you can't. But
That's
I
what I'm not
think
gonna
this is the year we see Josh Allen beat him in the playoffs. I think this is the year. I think guess what? You want me to call it? I think it's going to go to overtime, and I think Josh Allen's going to beat him in overtime.
Oh,
and
sweet revenge!
Absolutely, that would be so scripted, wouldn't it? That would be so scripted, dude.
Basically, what we're saying is we're very excited for the playoffs.
It's going to be a great
excited
playoffs.
to get to it finally. It's going to be fun. There's going to be script writers writing it up already. They're already writing it up right now. So I'm just excited. I'm excited.
There's a lot of questions. Can the Niners get that 6th Lombardi? Can the Ravens win a playoff game? With Lamar Jackson.
Can the Rams
get in? Can the Seahawks upset the Lions?
Yeah.
Didn't they beat the Lions
Yes,
earlier
they
in there
did.
in Detroit?
In Detroit.
So okay. By the way, the Niners would kill the Seahawks if they played.
Oh
them.
yeah.
They've already beaten them twice,
Yes.
pretty bad.
Yes.
They would beat them again, pretty bad if they. The Niners' dream scenario is give me the Seahawks in the divisional, and then whoever's left in the NFC. That's their dream scenario, or the Packers or something. But anyways, we'll leave it there. Excited for the playoffs. We'll be back Fantasy Files in a few weeks. But thank you guys so much for listening. This is your co-host Grant Mona and Brandon Deutsch. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Fantasy Files podcast.